Welcome to the Ask Philip podcast. Today, Philip talks about the future of 3D printing. Philip Washington Jr. is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and/or tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. And now, here's Philip.
All right, it has been a heck of a week, right? Crypto markets have been up, down, up, down. As of right now, I think they're back down again. Very fun, exciting, or nerve-wracking, depending on what side of the table you're on. But a good week nonetheless, because we are alive and well and ready for the weekend. So today we're talking about 3D printing, and I think the trend, and as you mentioned, software. Talk to you guys about software eating the world. The trend of software is like exponentially changing everything, right? Which can be exciting and nerve-wracking. It can be exciting because there's tons of opportunities for people who are willing to rethink their mental models of the world and retrain themselves in the new areas. I think it's the time period where, I like to, I've mentioned this probably 3 times before, but because I used to watch Discovery Channel, but you have the young lion who wants to take the pride from the old lion, and this is a period of time where like literally that can be done because you have all these entrenched, established players in the market that are missing the innovation because it completely like destroys them. And if it doesn't matter how old you are either, by the way. I'm just saying, like, if you're not part of the establishment and you want to put more wealth in your hands, if you learn, study, get a job invest in these new areas, you can make a lot of money because they're still making fun of Bitcoin on CNBC, right? And Bitcoin is like eating the world. And so I'm just like, man, this is so fun. So 3D printing is another one where, without boring you with all the nerd stuff, well, actually, I think I will bore you with some nerd stuff, right? Because what is, when you have a chair, right? A chair is just an idea, right? Somebody imagined this chair that you might see in Nebraska Furniture Mart and you want to take home and use in your house. But it's an idea, right? They created the idea in their head, and then they got somebody to manufacture it and build it. And so what technology has enabled is the ability you can visualize that chair, and if you can design it in a computer, there's printers that can literally print this out, right? I was reading and studying up before the podcast on it, and like literally they are 3D printing parts for like rockets. I mean, anything you could think of, they're 3D printing. Me and Steve before were talking about, we both saw them 3D printing these houses, right? And these houses that normally would take, I forget the time frame to build, but it took like under 3 days to 3D print these houses, and they're selling for like something like $5-10 grand or something like that. Small houses, but the point is, like, this technology is cheap enough to do more than what you think, and it's getting exponentially cheaper, right, every year. We talk about Moore's law, allowing us to put more and more on smaller computer chips. Same thing is happening in medicine with genomics exponentially decreasing, being able to map out our genes, right? And then in manufacturing, same thing is happening with 3D printing, right? We are lowering the cost of being able to create different products. And just like way back in the day, only big businesses had computers that were, in a room, right, to the computer in the home. So now we got a superpower computer in our pocket. Same thing is happening with manufacturing, and it's already past the needing a 3D printer in a big room, right? Now, depending on what you're printing, but 3D printing, I believe over the next 10 years or so, we'll be able to have a 3D printer in our house, and if we want to 3D print some furniture, right, we'll just think it up or have somebody design it and just print it in the house, just like our cell phone, right? Imagine going back even 40 years And like I think about my great grandmother, Medea. If I were able to go back and say, hey, Medea, I could talk to you on the phone and you could see my face while you're in Houston and I'm in, Dallas, she'd be like, what? That'd be really hard. And that was only 40 years ago, right? That's, actually not even 40 years ago, because I'm not even that old. That would be like 30, 25 years ago. That was crazy to all of us. And so this is already happening. This is not like, and for those of you listen, I don't like to try to predict or say where I think things are going. Like, this is here, and the costs are already exponentially decreasing. It's just a matter of it's going to get cheap enough for us to have in our home. And so that opens up all kinds of new job opportunities too. Because if you're like, oh man, if I sell furniture at Nebraska Furniture Mart, and that is my bread and butter, which you don't make that much money doing that anyway. But if that's what you do, then I would say right now you may want to say, well, let me get into this, because some people, even if they have it, they're going to need somebody to help them design it. And which I believe is probably going to be. You got to remember, supply and demand is everything, right? If you have a low supply of people who can do something, which typically in new innovative areas there is, because people hate change, right? You make a lot of money in the short term. And so you got to be ahead of these trends. But 3D printing is here. It's a pretty cool deal. And anything that you can imagine that you might want to buy, that you would buy from China or some other manufacturer, right? You will be able to 3D print, right? And if you want to just get bored, like, go YouTube 3D printing, and it'll blow your mind. This moves us into the next topic, which is really two-pronged, right? So I was listening to somebody on Twitter talk about we need free college, right? With everything else that's going on. And I'm an educator at heart. I love education. But I was like, we don't need college. We don't need free college. We don't even need college. And I was explaining to some people, because I'll talk about what I'm doing with my 10-year-old. I already have him learning how to program. My goal is I want to be able to program by the time he gets to high school. And that will allow him to not have to take a job when he wants a job at like Best Buy or Walmart. Like, he can literally like program for people and make make more money than most adults, part-time in high school, in between soccer and basketball practice or whatever he chooses to do. But I want to give him that skill set. And then also, and both of my boys, right? My other one's more artistic, so I'm going to have him learn how to, do art, music, all that using computers early on. Because my personal goal is, before high school, have them with the skill set to make money, and more money than the average person, because they're going to get skill sets equipped for the new world. School they definitely aren't learning that in like regular school. And then college is way behind on what they actually need to know, or they charge too much, right? Because in college, you can maybe just take 1 or 2 classes and get the skill set and then go make the money. But they make you take all these other classes because it's a bloated, garbage system. The people in the system, I love the educators, right? I'm not bashing educators. I'm bashing the system. But there's so much information you can learn like for free online. Like, I use the example of people say, oh, Philip, how'd you learn how to podcast? How'd you learn how to do content marketing? I watched YouTube videos. And, I bought a course that was $2,500, and that course was amazing, but that was the most expensive thing that I bought. But that's still cheap relative to, going to college and taking a outdated marketing course, on how to content market. So making college free is not going to solve the problem, because the problem is there's people with MBAs that are unemployed or underemployed, at best. There's people graduating with masters that just are not making enough money, and making college free is not going to do anything for it, because the problem is we don't have enough people who are skilled and equipped for the new world that we live in. Like, industries are becoming irrelevant by the month. And a big root cause of it, just to go really deep on it, is and I keep going over this, is the government money printing. Because think about this for a second. So our bodies, whenever we experience pain, it's the way our body gives us a signal that something is wrong, right? So like, for example, if you touch a stove and it's hot, you feel burned. So your body says, hey, pull your finger off there, because, leaving it on there is going to be damaging to your body. If we didn't feel pain and you left your finger in fire, like, you'd burn your finger off, And so nature gave us signals of pain to help us correct course. So in the markets, when you have a central bank that basically makes interest rates go to zero, they distort the market mechanism for us figuring out where we should invest capital more efficiently. Meaning, when they bail out companies and make money cheap, they basically allow us to continue to invest resources in dying, ineffective, inefficient companies. And so you have a lot of people who are, going to go work at banks, which are completely irrelevant. Everybody hates their bank. Banks are just terrible. They're wasting resources. Right? These people should be working in the new fintech space, in the crypto space, because it's the new finance. But because we bail out the banks and we keep giving them money, they are inefficient. Or we waste billions and billions of dollars on farming subsidies, so some people can keep their political power, right? And my wife's a federal employee, and so this is I'm attacking my own home, but we have lots of people that are in government that just they're just there. They're just bodies in seats. They're completely a lot of people that are, and this is not just government, but I'm speaking specifically because I see it. They're inept. They're wasting space. It's really hard to get fired, right? But this is all big organizations, big bureaucratic organizations that are kept up through crony capitalism, right? Because they're bailed out, or because money is cheap and they're big and they can borrow cheaply. And it stops us as a country from reinvesting in the areas that we need to reinvest in order to equip our economy to be ready for the for this century. Same thing with school system. It's just completely inept. It can be gutted. We waste tons and tons of money in the system. It can be gutted and done more efficiently and equip people more faster, but it's not. And that's all done because of money printing, right? When money is cheap, you can have what we call zombie companies, zombie organizations stay around because they have money. And that is the biggest problem. And I'm speaking specifically because people are talking, we have this whole debate about minimum wage and people not going back to work and people earning more through unemployment, right? It's kind of like the people are right in the sense where they're like, well, why would I go work if I'm getting paid more unemployment, than I would at my job? But but then forcing the employers to pay them more if their skills are not worth more, right? Like what's going to end up happening is they'll just figure out a way to use technology to not need the people. And I use the example of my business, right? When I first started 14 years ago, to have my business run the way it's run right now, I would need at least 3 or 4 staff people at a minimum, right? But now through technology, I'm able to have a sales army of content selling for me 24 hours a day, right? There's people going through my pipeline hearing my content while I'm asleep, right? Everywhere. And it brings incoming, right? I'm able to, have people who help me that provide their services for my company without being employees because of the age of us being able to have all these outsourced compliance services or outsourced podcasting services like I use with the best podcaster in the state. And so, embracing new technology allows you to run an organization more lean. I mean, Zoom, right? Zoom saves me a lot of office space. And Zoom is something I've been using Zoom for 5 years, right? The pandemic just forced everybody else to use it, and thank God, because now everybody's used to using it. But my point is, the cost of doing business for people who are forward thinking, leaning into the trends, is going down a lot. The advantages are getting bigger, and it can be that way for everybody if they embraced it. But the market signal is getting distorted by all the money printing, right? And that is the problem. You force companies to raise the minimum wage, right? And by the way, there's a reason why you see the big companies, Target, or not Target, but Amazon, Walmart, and Amazon is super relevant, so they can do it. But you better believe, and I'm putting this on the record so that 5 years out I can recall it. They're going to pay it now, but 5 years from now they're going to have less people working for them because they're going to increase their costs, and they're going to figure out a way for technology to automate. Because what's happening is, I just mentioned to you in 3D printing thing. Here's the connection: the cost of replacing people with technology is going down exponentially, right? every year it's getting cheaper. And so as soon as they can, hire less people, so if they're hiring, they're going to do it. It's just math. And so people like to evoke morals in business, but I'm like, yeah, but you buy the cheapest. Like you go buy the cheapest thing you can buy. Like you're part of the problem. If you were to say, oh man, I really want you to pay workers more, so I'm going to go buy from the people that are expensive, but they're paying their workers more. You don't do that. Like people don't do that. And so don't blame the big quote unquote greedy corporations. It's just the way the market works. And so, but the market is not able to work properly because there's so much money printing in the system. It distorts as I mentioned, it distorts the signal that we get, and it's causing all kinds of misallocation of resources. So what can you do? Right? You can lean in. If you are worried about, if you're not happy with how much you're getting paid, what you're getting paid, or your quality of life, or both, we need to lean into the game-changing technology. It's scary at first, but you're going to get left behind if you don't. I mean, there's nothing else. Like technology is moving fast, and these companies, like the temporary forcing people to get paid more than the value they provide to the organization. That's not a natural law. You're never going to get more than what you give, right? And a law of nature is you give, and you always try to give more than what you get, and that's how you stay wealthy. And so if the value you provide an organization is $20 an hour and they're paying you $25 an hour, so they're paying you more than your value, you're not going to be there long, right? You got to think, how do I provide more value than what I'm getting in return from a skill set standpoint? And if you can't answer that question with confidence, then you're at risk. And so make sure your kids are equipped, make sure you're equipped. The government is going to become less relevant over the next 10 years because they're broke. They're all broke around the world, and change happens whether they want to or not. And so, and this is not a political conversation. I think all you guys know my politics is pretty right down the middle. This is just a fact of life. The politicians want to say they can save you, but they can't. They just talk trash to get reelected, right? We gotta save ourselves. And I'm actually like super excited. I'm excited because this is a period of time where, with technology, it allows us to like save ourselves, right? How I'm doing like a radio show. I don't have to ask any permission, right? Anybody can do it. Anybody can become a blogger. Anybody can run their own TV station, a YouTuber, right? Again, 3D printing, right? Anybody can get into this now, and it's still relatively cheap, even though we can't have it into our own home. Like there's tons of jobs being created where there's not enough people in there, and yeah, I mean, you just can't be lazy, and you can't hope things stay the way they were just because you want them to. They are changing, and they are changing fast. Do not be the horse and buggy operator in 1930, cursing at Henry Ford. You're gonna lose. Henry Ford won. You lost. It is what it is. Y'all enjoy your weekend. Have fun, and talk to you on Monday.
If you are interested in having a review of your portfolio or to see how far on track you are with your retirement goals, Philip offers complimentary consults through his company, Stonehill Wealth Management. For more information, log on to stonehillwealthmanagement.com/talk. That's stonehillwealthmanagement.com/talk. Philip Washington Jr. is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and/or tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.